As a team, we were due to deliver Easter assemblies to over 7,000 young people across 18 schools. We've obviously not been able to do this, and while we're massively gutted about it, we are trying to make the best of the situation. Over the next few weeks, we will be releasing videos to encourage you in your faith.
Some of you guys will still be at school, but if you're not, you'll probably have plenty to fill your time. Netflix, maybe a new Disney Plus, your games console, or just going on social media. Oh, and I'm sure schools have sent you plenty of work to do. You might not be bored at all, but you're probably missing your friends.
You might have heard people at your church talking about fellowship. Now that might sound boring, but basically all it's about is being a good friend, spending time with other Christians, praying with them when times are tough, encouraging each other in our faith. Now you might be missing out on this as your church youth groups are not able to meet right now. But hopefully your groups have found a safe way to meet online. Maybe your church is also posting their services online as well, so be sure to check these things out.
As a team, we have been thinking about Easter for the past few months and what it means to us. There's a lot to think about. Jesus' victory over sin and death, that Jesus came back to life, forgiveness, new life, and a hope for the future. There's one aspect we decided to focus on for our assemblies. See if you can figure out what it is from these clips and photos. Have a look. You might be able to recognise the film characters more easily. Tony Stark, Bing Bong, Ben and Ray, and Baymax.
So, can you see what the link is? Well, all these people have chosen to sacrifice their own lives to save others. In the case of Tony Stark...
Whoa, spoiler alert.
Oh, come on, it came out last April. Is it really an excuse? Everyone has Disney Plus now anyway, don't they? Right, back to Tony Stark. He has given his own life to save the lives of his friends. Now, the two black and white photos are real people who gave their lives for others. They are real heroes. These two men were both caught up in world wars.
Our first hero, Alfred Vanderbilt, was a millionaire businessman back in the early 1900s. His father had been the richest man in America. Alfred was a passenger on a boat which was attacked during World War I. As a first-class passenger, he was given a life jacket, but he chose to give it to a lady as the boat was sinking. He swapped places with her. He spent the last moments of his life carrying young children to lifeboats. He did all this knowing that he could not swim and had little chance of surviving. He died at sea.
Our second hero is Maximilian Kolbe, a Catholic priest who was in a prisoner of war camp during World War II. He volunteered to take the place of a fellow prisoner who had been sentenced to starve to death. He swapped places with him. You can see him quoted here saying, "Don't ever forget to love." Two amazing acts of self-sacrifice. Now, whenever I come across these really moving stories of heroic self-sacrifice, I often wonder if that moment came where I had to choose, what would I do?
This idea of self-sacrifice is central to Easter for Christians. I'm sure you know about the account of Jesus' last days, how he was arrested, ridiculed, beaten, and then wrongly sentenced to death, being nailed to a cross. Here we see Jesus making a willing sacrifice, and this is what is remembered in church services on Good Friday.
Thinking back to the examples of sacrifice earlier, you may be able to see that there are some subtle differences in the kind of sacrifice being made. It is really interesting how these compare to the sacrifice that we as Christians believe that Jesus made. For example, Tony Stark was going to die anyway along with his friends, but he decided to stop Thanos knowing it would sacrifice himself but save them all. They still suffered loss though. They lost their friend Tony, and his daughter and wife will be without a dad and husband. Also notice that Tony actually killed Thanos in the process. This sacrifice here isn't quite the same as the one made by Jesus, who never took a life.
So now, we want to leave you with some homework before our next video.
Before you swipe away, it's not that bad. The first bit of homework is to watch one of the films that we mentioned earlier. Or if you can think of another one where there's a sacrifice, then check it out. And as you watch it, put yourself in the shoes of the characters.
You could also take a look at some of the things Jesus said about this. For example, have a read of John chapter 15 verses 12 to 17. We will put a link below. Spend this week thinking about what it means to you that Jesus' death on the cross was a sacrifice.